So thank you so much for coming tonight. This is going to be a super informal kind of thing. That's how I do things. I like to talk to you like you're my friends, and if you're dog lovers, then it's just automatic. Some of you may know me. I'm Tanya Christensen. I own Must Love Dogs downtown, and my life revolves around everything dog. And so this is what I do on my some of my free time is therapy dog work. I want to introduce some of the people we have here tonight to help us answer questions. We have Shar and Kris. They are both testers. So after we're done, if you have any questions for them, we'll let you ask those questions. If they have anything to add, if I've forgotten something or if I'm misstating something, because I'm not a tester, I just know what I went through to get Telco registered. And then we have Francesca over here. She's another therapy dog team with her dog Sadie. Ooh. And so Shar has Breslin and Kris has Johnny for therapy dogs. So I'm going to start out by differentiating between all the different kinds of dog titles there are out there, and it's a very confusing thing. Telco oftentimes gets called a service dog. Service dogs get called therapy dogs. Emotional support animals get called service dogs. And so I'm going to kind of hopefully clarify that for you a little bit tonight. First, we're going to start out with a pet. A lot of times people will call their pets a therapy dog, and they're not meaning it as a technical term, like a registered therapy dog, but they, as we all know, dogs provide a ton of therapy to us personally. So naturally, pets don't have any special privileges in regards to going into restaurants or stores where dogs aren't typically allowed. They are just, allowed where dogs are allowed. They provide a wonderful service for us individually, but that's pretty much where that stops. I'm going to save therapy dog for the end because after we hit therapy dogs, I'm going to expound on that a bit. So I'm going to move next to emotional support animals. So there's been a lot of emotional support animals hitting the news lately. Who saw the emotional support animal that was a peacock that they were trying to bring on the plane? Did you guys see that? Emotional support animals, they don't really regulate what kind of animal they are. They can be emotional support pigs, goats, chickens, peacocks. Unfortunately, it's as easy as going online and paying $75 and all of a sudden you have a letter and a badge, and now you think you can fly your pet on the airlines, for free. And they, because it's not a service animal, they can actually require documentation to prove that your dog or your whatever animal you're trying to fly with is actually an emotional support animal. If your pet is an emotional support animal, the only privileges that pet gets is that they do get to fly on the airplane in cabin for no extra charge. You do have to call ahead and make arrangements. You can't just show up and say, it's just me and my pig, So you do have to call them ahead. You have to tell them, what animal it is, because they regulate how many animals are in cabin in each flight, and they do have the right to deny you if you did not make those arrangements ahead of time. The other thing that an emotional support animal, the other privilege they get is that if there is housing that does not allow pets, you are allowed to bring your pet to this kind of housing. So you can see why people would be eager to try to get that kind of labeling. The only legal way to do it is that it needs to be prescribed by a psychiatric professional. So somebody has to prescribe this animal to you, and they will write a letter, at which point you can go to a reputable organization and get a badge if you want, but the letter is really all you need. They do not get any other privileges. Emotional support animals cannot come on, public transportation if they don't allow pets. They cannot come into stores if they don't allow pets, or restaurants. It's just the airlines and housing. Then we have service dogs. And service dogs encompass a huge variety of different dogs. But the key to a service dog is that the dog has to provide a task. So whether it be, here's my little list. So everybody knows the good old seeing eye dog. that dog provides a ton of tasks for a blind person. Hearing dogs that can like tell you when the phone is ringing or the doorbell, or you know, just tell you those kinds of things. Service dogs for children with autism. Come here. Down. Come on. Down. Don't grump at me. Just do it. Yeah. So service dogs, they have to provide a task. So with kids with autism, that could be something like when a child might be going into a stressful state, they can calm them down. If they fall, a lot of times dogs can help. Kids can bear weight on the dogs to help them up. Seizure dogs. Now, there's a common misconception that seizure dogs are trained to predict seizures. They're not trained to predict seizures. They're trained to keep somebody safe or go get help if there's a seizure. But oftentimes, after the dog has had enough seizures under its belt, it can predict them because we smell differently when we're going to have, you know, things happen. That's also like diabetic dogs. They can sometimes smell when your blood changes. It's very, very interesting. But so service dog in the eyes of the ADA is an actual tool, just like a wheelchair. So those people cannot be denied entrance to anywhere that is public. So that's, you know, the movie theater, anywhere you can go, a person with a service dog can go. And there's only 2 questions that can be asked. If like say you own a business and somebody comes in, and you can ask them if you need the service dog for a disability and what task that dog performs. You cannot ask for anything else, and you cannot ask for any documentation. It's illegal. It's like asking somebody, you know, to prove that they need a wheelchair, and they need to have it in writing, and that's discriminatory. So there's a lot of abuse going on. Another thing, service dogs don't need a vest, and they don't need a badge. And they don't have to technically be trained by anybody professional. They just have to be able to perform the service. So I have, there's a company in Grand Rapids that trains service dogs, and so they're a Pleasant Dog. And so if you know somebody who needs a service dog trained for them, they train service dogs. So I brought their information because there's not too many people around that actually train for, you know, excuse me, like the seizure dogs or anything like that. So they do that. And then there's working canines. So these are the search and rescue dogs, cadaver dogs. We have, in Grand Haven, we have a canine named Max. Must love dogs, feeds him. He eats good stuff. Got to keep him on his toes. And those dogs are, so, you know, the police officer can't go to the restaurant and bring the dog into the restaurant. He's not allowed when he's not working, but when he's working, he's allowed to go wherever he needs to go, whether if he's drug sniffing or you know, searching for somebody who's on the run or missing, you know, they have the right to be able to go where they need to do their jobs. There's an organization called National Crisis Response Canines, and they are kind of I don't want to say that they're therapy dogs, but they're therapy dogs that have received extra training to be able to respond in crisis situations. So oftentimes they will fly in the cabin for free, or at the very least at discounted rates. It's up to the airline. They don't have that right, but because they're working canines and they're going to go help somebody, like, you know, this recent shooting in Florida, a lot of dogs, I don't know if National Crisis Response Canines went out there, but there was the Lutheran, the group of Lutheran therapy dogs that went down there. And a lot of times if they need to fly, if they let the airline know, they will offer them for the dog to fly for free, but it is not a right. So with that being said, then there are therapy dogs. So therapy dogs are dogs that don't necessarily require special training. It's never a bad idea, but they just need to be able to be well behaved, and I don't even think he knows he's whining. He's just whining. and they need to, want to be around people and visit with people. So a lot of times, so there's a couple different organizations out there. Alliance of Therapy Dogs is the organization that we're representing tonight, that we are through. There's West Michigan Therapy Dogs out of Grand Rapids, and they actually have a class that you have to take and through them and pass, of course, before you can be registered with them. Alliance of Therapy Dogs is different because they don't care how you got there, just as long as you got there, to the point where your dog is well behaved. And some of the things that, let's see. One thing about Alliance of Therapy Dogs, well, I'll back up a little bit. Therapy dogs can only go where they've been invited. So, therapy dogs cannot go to the restaurant with you. They cannot, do anything like service dogs can do unless they're invited into a place. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, Francesca and I and 2 other therapy dog teams were invited to the Tim Tebow's Night to Shine, which is a prom for special needs children. So we had 4 therapy dog teams in the church, and we were in the dining area, and we were wherever the people were, we were allowed to go, and because we were invited there. So there's no special house privileges or no special flying privileges with therapy dogs. Now I'll swing back around and talk about Alliance of Therapy Dogs. The no required training is the first thing I was talking about. One thing that I really love and appreciate about Alliance of Therapy Dogs is that there is no restrictions on diets or supplements. All my dogs get fed a raw diet. That's a huge discussion for another time, but I believe that that's the best way to feed a dog. And other therapy dog organizations don't allow that because they're unsure about how that might transfer to somebody with a compromised immune system if you're working in the hospital or with cancer patients or something like that. But so if I could not feed my dogs a raw diet, I wouldn't be doing therapy work because my dog's health and longevity and happiness come first and foremost. No breed restrictions, which is also a wonderful thing. With Alliance of Therapy Dogs, the only restrictions are you can't have coyote or wolf mixes, which, okay. But everything else is no restrictions, which I love. Right. They must be up to date on their rabies and have an annual fecal exam. So like if you were to start up recently, you'd have to have a fecal exam within the last 12 months, and you just have your vet send that to the organization. So the dogs must be well behaved and under control at all times. No jumping, no barking when they're working. I mean, they were outside, they were kind of playing around, so that wasn't, but they can't go into, for example, last weekend when we were at the Night to Shine, one of the dogs got excited to see another dog and started to bark, and that could actually trigger anxiety in a special needs person. So you just, you need to be able to be aware of those kinds of things, and if you tell your dog to stop, it would stop, and the dog was told to stop, and the dog stopped. They're dogs, they're gonna, hey, hi, and then you're like, hey, stop, and they're like, oh, okay. And they listen. So that's the key. So, we're not expecting them to be perfect, but we expect them, to listen. And if you give them a command that they go, they accept it. No, jumping up, no licking or kissing unless it's on command. So a lot of times, depending on the situation, you don't want a dog that's going to go up in somebody's face and, lick them up and down. Some people don't like that. It causes some people anxiety. But it's nice to put a command on that where you can say, give kisses, and then it's okay. The dog knows that, ooh, it's cute, and everybody smiles and laughs and giggles. And so it's good. It's fun to put commands on things, and everybody loves tricks. but it's not necessary. And of course, you would think that this would be a no-brainer, but it needs to be said, your dog needs to be potty trained. So oftentimes, your dog won't have problems at home with potty training, but if they go into a place where other animals have been, or where there might have been people accidents, sometimes they want to go there too. So it's really super important to make sure your dog is really reliably potty trained, and you always potty them before you go into a therapy visit. Some extra bonuses for your dog would be to be able to accept loud noises, abrupt movement, you know, walkers, wheelchairs, people. You know, sometimes I'm at the nursing home and somebody's in a lot of pain and they're crying out, and sometimes special needs kids will yell out really quickly and move. You know, anybody has, you know, can do that, and so your dog can react to it, like, but they need to recover. You're like, oh, hey, no big deal. Hey, how you doing? You know, so that's kind of not required, but a bonus kind of thing.
Can I make another suggestion?
Yeah.
One thing that I really noticed, I've been doing testing and observing for almost 20 years. Teach your dog to be okay with not so gentle petting. I work at Sanctuary at the Shore, and some of my residents have tremors, so my dog will pop, you know, like get bumped on the head. And they have to learn that that's okay, or that's okay if somebody grabs their ears or paws.
Or their tails, yes.
So when I tell people to work with their dogs to become therapy dogs, be a little rough in a way with the way you pet them. You know, kind of pet them harder, like, you know, somebody with tremors is going to be like kind of shaking. So teach them that, or teach them it's okay if their ears get a little hold of their paws, get a little tugged on, because some people, they don't mean harm, but they just cannot control their emotions anymore. And so, you know, to teach your dog that's okay, and the way I do it is by doing that with my dogs myself, so they get used to me and then it transfers over. But that's something I cannot stress enough, to teach your dog that it's okay to not have that gentle petting.
So I'm gonna repeat briefly what you said for the video, because I don't know that the phones will pick you up. But Kris had mentioned that it's really important to teach your dog to accept aggressive petting. And maybe a little ear tugging and some tail tugging, and maybe even a little bit of some skin grabbing. Like I know it's happened to Talco before, where somebody will just grab a handful of skin and kind of grab a little bit. And so try to make sure that your dogs are okay with that assertive, aggressive kind of petting. And a solid leave it command is a wonderful thing. So, you know, when you're Talco, we go to Heartwood Lodge every week, and in each neighborhood they have like a dining area, and you know, we go there right after breakfast, so people are just leaving the table, so there's eggs and toast and stuff on the floor, and they're getting ready to clean it up. But Talco knows that, and he you know, he's like always trying to go over and get to the food so he can eat it. And so, you know, we tell him leave it and we keep going. Another good example is if somebody, you know, drops something. What if medication fell on the floor and your dog was the kind of dog that lunged at whatever fell on the floor? You know, eat first, ask questions later. You know, he could get sick, or in the worst case scenario, die because of something he's eaten. So a leave it command is super important, in my opinion. It won't prevent them, if they don't know leave it, it won't prevent them from becoming a therapy dog. But when you and your dog become a team and you're working under these circumstances, you want to do everything you can to protect them and make sure that they're happy and safe. So then, a dog cannot become a therapy dog until they're a year old. So, but it's never too soon to start. So, this is where I'm a little unclear, because it's been a little while since Talco and I tested, but we do, if I remember correctly, it's a test and then 3 observations, right? So, Kris, can you tell, well, either one of you, what the test entails?
Sure, there's a test prior, and basically the things that we're looking for is how your dog reacts. So we're going to do some petting of them, pet their paws and their head and their tail, and see how they accept that. They're going to have to to meet another dog, preferably one of our therapy dogs, and how they react to that. And in Alliance of Therapy Dogs, it's not meet and greet nose to nose. There has to be 4 foot between every dog in a therapy dog visit. So the dogs can't get that close, but we're going to look to see how does your dog react to another dog. Are they happy to see them? Do they not care? Do they want to eat them alive? And I've had dogs that scared the daylights out of me. You know, like, you've got to be kidding. So, you know, you look for that. You do some, they walk up, they have to make a left turn, a right turn. They have to be able to sit, have to down. They can be on no more than a 4-foot leash. They have to go up to somebody who's unsteady. They have to go up to somebody in a wheelchair. They have to go, somebody has to rush past them really fast like they're running. So you want the dogs to be able to handle about anything they would see. Now I work, like I said, at Sanctuary de Shore, and I have all that stuff with my residents, you know, and it's actually quite fun because all my residents tell me who they think would make great therapists. But it's cool. So anyway, but so we're going to be looking for those kinds of things. Does your dog look neat and clean? Are their nails trimmed? Do they smell like they just rolled in a skunk? You know, we're going to look to see how they look. We're going to even look at you. You can't wear sandals. You can't wear halter tops. You have to be dressed nicely. And one of the biggest things that's now in therapy dogs is before you even set foot to see me or Shar is you go through a criminal background check. Therapy dog is now requiring, so you go to them, they have a thing online, you pay the $17, they'll fill it out, they'll send you, email you, or snail mail, whatever you want, saying yes, you passed the criminal background check, then you can come see us. We cannot test you or see you until you had that criminal background check.
And that's fairly new, so that did slip my mind, yeah.
January 1st it started.
And it's right on the website. It's, what is it, therapydogs.
www.therapydogs.com.
I couldn't remember if it was com or org.
And there's actually brochures back here.
Yes. So for the video, if you didn't hear that, I'm not going to repeat all of that, but if you're interested in what the testing entails, you can contact myself or Kris Larsen, or go to the website. And then there's a background test you have to, or background check you have to pass. So then after the testing's done, then there's 3 observations where your dog is actually observed doing a therapy dog visit by the observer testers. And then once you know, if you need constructive criticism, that will lovingly be given to you. And then you know, if everything goes well, they will recommend you to be to Alliance of Therapy Dogs to be a registered team.
One of the things too that you need to know is before you can send this stuff into Therapy Dog, you need to have your vet sign off that your dog is healthy.
Yeah.
You have to bring to us proof of rabies and things like that. But your vet's going to sign off that yes, that your dog had the fecal exam and that they've had the rabies and all that stuff, those shots. And every year you renew with Alliance of Therapy Dogs, and you will have to have your vet sign off that your dog is indeed healthy and indeed able to perform the tasks that a therapy dog needs to do.
That's right.
And most of the vets in this area are real familiar with the forms.
And if, you know, say if your dog's lame and he has an issue that's not being addressed, and, you know, ethically your vet would say, listen, I don't feel comfortable saying that your dog is able to complete the tasks because, you know, he needs to have this issue taken care of or whatever.
And handicapped dogs can be therapy dogs.
Yes, handicap can be, but
eyesight, she's still a therapy dog. My friend Nicole, her dog's not going to be wearing a splint due to a serious injury they can't fix. She's still a therapy dog. I've registered 3-legged therapy dogs. I've registered a deaf therapy dog.
Well, and I'm referring to somebody who has an injury that's not being
correct. If your dog is injured or sick, then you can't. But I mean, I just want you guys to know that because your dog has a disability.
Sometimes those make the best therapy dogs.
Absolutely.
People can relate to them, you know, if they're, you know, an amputee or you know, sometimes, those make the best therapy dogs.
Do they have to heel?
Well,
If they turn left and turn right?
technically, no.
No, they just can't be dragging you ahead or you can't be dragging them.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect heel. I never look for that.
No, I mean, you just want a dog that's not pulling on the leash, that listens to you. If you go this way, it goes that way. If, you know, it doesn't have to be in any.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Or
No.
I had a lady who was dragging her dog. The dog was literally laying down, did really not want to be a therapy dog. You're like, dogs that have a lot of rug birds.
Oh, that's funny. I think, do we have any questions, Bob?
Did you say age limits? Are there age, what are the age limits?
They have to be 1 year old.
Is that for all of them service and?
I don't know about all the rest of them. I just know for therapy
I
dogs.
would think for most of them, there'd have to be at least 3-year-old to be
I would think
able
so
to
too.
be mature enough to handle it up.
Unless it's like an emotional support animal, that probably doesn't have to be. They just need to exist.
And in therapy dog, you make the decision when your dog no longer can be a therapy dog, and you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll know when they either their hearts. My Aussie who was like, I'd rather chomp on the people than visit them now, so I don't take him anymore. But yeah, you'll know.
Right. Bob?
And another one too, just to clarify, because I didn't know this either. Only service dogs, you can't ask them if they're a service dog?
No, what?
You can't ask them for any proof that they are?
Correct. You can't ask them for proof, and that's the conundrum that is.
Right.
You know, you can say, do you need your dog for a disability, and they'll say yes, and then you'll say what task does your dog perform, and then they have to tell you. But that's all you can ask. If you're a business and you ask anything beyond that, you're reaching for a lawsuit. It's like if you come in a wheelchair and I say, I don't think you really need that wheelchair. What do you need that wheelchair for? Well, you know, I need it because I can't use my legs. Well, prove it. You know.
The business ask the person to, oh yeah, you can't do that either.
No.
You ask them to do it.
No. Mm-mm. No. So, and does anybody? I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't know this. I'm not sure what the penalty is for faking a service dog.
How could you ever catch it?
I know. So, you know,
I don't know the answer to that, but I have fostered puppies for Paws with a Cause, and it's been a while since I was there, but I believe there is a penalty.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is.
Because
Yeah.
when I was under the impression from my affiliation with them that when they were working they had a vest on, but now you're saying.
Well, Paws with a Cause, they do because they prefer it that way, but it's not required.
Oh, okay.
It's like saying, you know, your wheelchair needs to be bright orange. You know, it's like so we're thinking of these dogs as dogs, but but the ADA thinks of them as tools, like a wheelchair or like, you know, any other tool for a disabled person, like a prosthetic or.
And then I have a question that just popped in my head. I was in Myers last week, and at the checkout, a gentleman walked up behind me with a service dog that had a collar kind of, not sparkly, but thick like that.
Yeah.
That said working dog. He was off leash. I never saw a leash.
Never. They're never supposed to be. So there are a few things that you can tell fake service dogs, and one is off leash. Another one is an ill-behaved dog that is, you know, barking or not behaving. Service dogs are generally really well behaved. Now sometimes they can, once the trainers get them all fine-tuned and polished, and then they send them home, and sometimes things get, you know, a little rusty. But yeah, so always on leash. There's never.
So does, like, he was in Myers, so could Myers tell him he had to be on leash?
Yes.
They should have every right. The whole problem is you can go to websites and buy any kind of harness or any kind of vest you want. So it's working dog, service dog, you pay $70. I had one of my residents wanted to use her dog as an emotional support dog when she left. I was amazed. You could go online, fill out paperwork, and have a doctor sign off that never ever sees you by answering 3 questions.
Yeah.
And says you need that dog, and voila, you've got your emotional support dog with no training, no nothing, and it costs you $100 some bucks. I'm
Yeah.
like, no wonder everybody is confused. You know.
And like the airlines are getting fed up because everybody's flying with every kind of animal under the sun, and they've got all these, you know, they've got a card and they've got a letter from the company, not a letter from a doctor. So, you know, the company will say, hey, do you have a letter from a psychiatrist? And all you have to do is mark yes, and then they'll send you. And they never ask for a copy of the letter because, you know, that's private or whatever. So it's really frustrating because a lot of people are out there faking, you know, emotional support animals or they'll have a fake emotional support animal that they treat like a service dog. And anytime, like, you know, they'll bring them places, and anytime somebody approaches them, they just show the badge, and it's like, oh, okay, you know, but that badge is for an emotional support dog, which does not get to go to the restaurant, and does not get to go, but the world knows so little about what they're able to do, and they don't want to get sued, so they like see the card, and they're like, ooh, you know.
So how do you find out what the owner's rights, the restaurant's rights are? How do you know if you have the right? No.
Well, they need to educate themselves on like if somebody flashes an ESA badge, which is an emotional support animal, the business owner needs to know that that is not a service dog.
And so if I was the business owner, where would I go to find out?
There's online. I mean, you can just look up. You can just Google. You know, what's the difference between an ESA and a service dog, and it tells you. Or you could come to this seminar and we would tell you.
Is it legal to ask if it's an emotional support dog as opposed to a service dog?
Yes, it is legal.
Ask that.
Yeah, so you can ask, is this a service dog? And if they say it's an emotional support dog, then that's your trigger.
But most people will say.
Most people will lie. Well, not most people. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to be like people lie, you know. But but some people, you know, the people who are going to be dishonest are going to be dishonest.
Or they don't know the
Or
difference.
they don't know the difference. I have a family member who has a therapy dog, and because of my background with Cause for the Cause, it was like kind of hinky to me.
Yeah.
And I believe now, after your explanation, they have an emotional
support animal.
pet rather than a therapy dog. But I'm never going to be able to convince them of that.
Well, that's kind of their thing, you know.
But then
Yeah.
if she goes into a business, she doesn't know what she has, so how is the business owner gonna know?
You know, like I had mentioned, a service animal performs a task,
Yeah.
and emotional support is not a task. Now there's this I did miss and didn't cover, the psychiatric service dog. So a psychiatric service dog is a type of dog that a lot of times you'll see them with veterans that have PTSD. That if the task, it's emotional, it's kind of an emotional support dog, but it provides a task. So when somebody's about ready to, certain things can trigger people with PTSD, and the dogs can calm them down and bring them back to a spot where they can function again. You know, sometimes it just flips, and then they need to be brought back. A lot of times they can also provide, like, you know, if they fall, or, you know, they can help them up. But so that's different than, because I was confused about that in the beginning, because I thought that they were emotional support animals, but I saw these veterans with service dogs going in different places, and I'm like, So upon further investigation, I found that I can't say psychiatric. Psychiatric service dogs are providing a service, or performing a service, and so therefore they get the service dog rights.
And that would be like for autistic children.
Did I see questions over here?
I have, I was just wondering, I like to use a pet harness with my dog. Is that allowed?
Yes.
The therapy dog? Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have any?
Is there any, regarding like vaccinations, do they have to have all of them or certain ones?
Rabies, rabies and the fecal exam.
About the only two that Alliance of Therapy Dogs really require.
Yeah. Which you know, if anybody knows me, I'm a minimal vaxxer. I don't like to say I'm not an anti-vaxxer because that just comes with a dark cloud anyway. But you know, my dogs get their vaccinations and boosters as puppies as late as possible. And myself personally, if they said your dog has to have lepto and bordetella and parvo and Lyme and all these other things, I would not be doing this, because my dog's health always comes first.
Do you have to have like an insurance?
So the benefit, yeah, that's a good question. So the reason we go through all of this is so that once we pass the test and the 3 observations and we become a registered therapy dog team, we are covered under Alliance of Therapy Dogs insurance policy. So when you, for example, when I got set up with Heartwood Lodge, I had to become a hospital volunteer, so I had to do what they needed me to do to become a volunteer at the hospital. And then I had to provide them with a copy of Alliance of Therapy Dogs liability insurance. So that's the benefit. So, you know, when you're looking, when a business or a facility is looking at bringing in therapy dogs, there's a lot of liability that can go with that. So by being a registered therapy dog team, it removes the liability from the facility to the therapy dog organization that tested these dogs and said that they are safe. But
the Alliance of Therapy Dog insurance does not cover in your place of employment.
That's right.
So for me, Sanctuary at the Shore, I am not covered by Alliance of Therapy Dogs if I bring my dogs in there. That would be Trinity's coverage of me. Now, actually, you can get, let's say that, yeah, you can actually get your own insurance through Alliance of Therapy Dogs, or like, I don't know, $100 a year or something, $125 a year. That, like, so like if you were, like for me, I could go and get that $125 a year and be covered by that. But I also know that Trinity will cover me right now, so I'm not worried about it. You have to ask your employer.
That's a really great question, because when and I'll repeat it for the video, I had a lot of people asking me about that. They're like, I'm a teacher and I'd love to have a therapy dog in my classroom. If you have the Alliance of Therapy Dog, the typical insurance only covers you when you're volunteering. So like if you're a psychiatrist, because I get a lot of people who want to have a therapy dog in their office, you know, maybe they are a child psychiatrist and they want a therapy dog. But I was unaware of the extra policy you can buy through Alliance of Therapy Dogs that will cover you when you're at work. That's another new thing this year. Look at them. Typically it does not cover you. The standard one does not cover you while you're working or if you're being paid, because we do not get paid to do therapy dog work. We volunteer, and we love spreading the magic that is dogs.
And that's also, remember, you have to be following therapy dog guidelines. If it's proven somehow that you weren't following their protocol guidelines, their insurance will not cover you.
Yeah. Yes.
About maybe a month ago, I went online and looked up therapy dogs, and I was reading all kinds of stuff, and I came across something that said that's new this year, that I've already taken my dog into assisted living places with their permission, but now it says you cannot do it unless your dog has been certified, and if you find out you're in there, you can actually go to prison for 2 years.
Yeah, I didn't know about.
I read it online under the therapy dogs, and I was okay, I think I better get this.
I'm going to assume that may vary depending on the state, but that doesn't surprise me, because the liability shifts from the facility. Like if you're in there, hey, stop crying. It's okay. He says, "Mom, I'm bored. Somebody pet me." So if you're in there without being registered, the liability is on the facility if anything happens. So if
I just thought that was like.
And part of it could be too. Where I work, family members bring in their dogs all the time. I don't have a problem with it if the dog is well behaved. And I have families, you can't bring your dog in because they're going to eat 6 people on the way in.
Yeah.
So I think, if you're trying to maybe pass yourself off as a therapy dog, get you in trouble. But like most facilities, I've been in long-term care for 31 years. Most facilities welcome well-behaved dogs to come.
Yeah, Heartwood Lodge does too.
And
yeah.
One of the things to really understand, there's a difference. You never ever certify a therapy dog. That is illegal.
Did I use the word certification?
No.
Okay. Because
I'm
like.
No. Lawyers have a heyday with certify, because certify means you're guaranteeing that dog will never, ever, 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 ever do anything wrong, and we know that it's not possible. Your dogs would lip scratch, whatever. So it is a registry. So you never certify a therapy dog. You register a therapy dog. That just keeps the window of lawsuits very small.
Yes. Wow.
So somebody goes to the Alliance that you guys, and is that now, once they're all set up and they're registered them to try to find places to go, or is that something that the?
So yes, you can, you know, go around and say, hey, I have a registered therapy dog and I'd like to find, you know, places to volunteer. Do you need anybody? We have a Facebook page, so like if anybody in here you know, gets their dog registered, the Facebook page is Lake Michigan Therapy Dogs, and it is for registered teams of Alliance of Therapy Dogs. So we don't bring anybody in if they're not registered yet. Once they are registered, we bring them in, and then we share opportunities. So we share tips, we share photos, we share brags, we share opportunities. So like the opportunity for the Night to Shine was posted, some of us were emailed, but it was also posted on our Facebook page so that we know about different opportunities. One thing that I take a special interest in, and others may too, but I like to find unique ways to use my therapy dog. So I've done funerals, which is, you know, you don't see too many of them at funerals. Last year, Relay for Life contacted us. Unfortunately, it got rained out, but we were all set up to do a tent at the Relay for Life because that's a very emotional event. And there's no better place for therapy dogs than a situation like that. So we were going to have a you know, therapy dog headquarters, and we were going to wander the event, and then people could come to the tent. And for you know, it can be so heavy and it can be so daunting, and dogs just bring that relief and that smile. I mean, you know, you pet a dog and it's instantaneous. So, you know, we're always looking for different situations to use our therapy dogs. Anybody else? Okay, so what we have here, Bob, will you raise your hand? He's a dog trainer. That's Bob Crow with Paradigm Dog School. He's on hand to answer your questions. In the summer, in the nice weather, we have 2 dog walks a month to help socialize dogs. So keep following Must Love Dogs Facebook page for that. It's a free thing that we do together. And Bob can answer any questions if you're having, you know, like if, you know, about, you know, some training issues you might be having to get your dog to do what we say they need to do. We have the 2 testers of observers back there, so if you have any special questions for them, they're happy to answer them. There's brochures and pens and stuff on that table. Up here, I have money for you, $5 gift certificates to Must Love Dogs. And then if you're interested, this is a little funsy thing. Telco has therapy dog cards, so here's a picture of Telco. And it's goofy. And then on the back of it, it has his name, his breed, his birth date, what group we're with, and his story. Telco was a rescue from Spain. They use podencos and galgos in Spain to hunt with, and they earn money by hunting, and they kill them when they're done with them, so they usually don't see their 2nd or 3rd birthday. The hunting season just ended on February 1st, and my Facebook feed is inundated with horrible, brutal images of the horrible things that they do to these dogs over there. So, you know, adopting Telco, simply adopting him is helping to spread the word about the dogs in Spain, but then making him a therapy dog, you know, it spreads the word even more so that we can stop that stuff in Spain. So anyway, you know, so you can do, you know, when you get your therapy dogs registered, you know, it's fun to do like little cards, and I give them to the residents, and they put them on their, you know, mirrors and their nightstands, and the kids take them, and it's really great. So make sure you come and get a gift certificate, and then ask some questions, pet some dogs, and I really thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Here, I'll pass these out so that. Oh, and I have dog food samples up here, all kinds of dog food samples. Did I give you one too many? Oh. Can I say hi to Telco? Yes.
the old man face.
I knew it was
You're like a good old man, don't you? Yeah, you're like a good old man.
Yes. Maybe I am. And I have to want to meet with the other ladies and well the dogs and the lady.
Oh, yeah, Mary Kate.
Yes. So I go in with Mary Jane tonight.
Photography? The Danko.
And we do have a psychiatric dog on board every day.
Awesome. Oh, I should probably stop as well before I